Hey, hi, and hello, and welcome to yet another episode of 12 to 60 Comics, where I talk about my journey collecting and selling my comic book collection. Today is going to be, I think, a pretty great episode. I'm going to talk first about my struggles to figure out how to best sell my mid to low grade comics. Do I do eBay? Do I do auctions? Do I do claim sales? Help me, I don't know, is the answer to that question. I am also going to do a special shout out to our subscribers. I am happy to announce that we are actually at this point over 50 subscribers, which is awesome. And we want to do a little special video shout out to you all. So we're going to do that. And definitely stick around till the end, because I am going to lose it when I talk about different covers, terrible, just covers, and all my feelings about covers, especially variants. So I've been going through, as I always do, spending a lot of time with my comics and trying to figure out which ones to put up on eBay and how to sell them, and looking at them and rereading them and things like that. And I've been going through a box of Batman comics. And these are from like the late 70s, early 80s to mid 80s. And, I was a kid then, particularly in the stuff from the late 70s. And I think some of these I bought along the way, like at thrift stores or, bought used comics. And so a lot of them, it's kind of heartbreaking, but a lot of them are just not in great shape. Like this is the worst one. This is Batman. I think it's number 311. And I think it's number 311 because it's such a bad copy of it that the number thing here is like cut off. I mean, there's staining everywhere. There's like almost no gloss on the cover. It's dirty. The spine's messed up. There's spine roll.
That's painful.
I mean, this is just, and the interior is no better. So this is a book that, to me is like maybe a good reader copy, and maybe it's, technically a good copy because it still has its cover. But it's a pretty low grade book. And then there's a bunch of other ones that are better than that, but they've got, spine ticks. They've got some, of the corner folds. They've got, a little bit of spine roll. They've got, blunt corners. They've got, books that I think, I wish were very fine, but are probably, if we're being honest, more in the fine plus range, right? I mean, we're talking really, truly mid-grade books. And I've got like 10, 20 of them. And then, in the later 80s, I clearly was taking better care of my books. I think I was buying them from a comic shop. These are almost all, the ones I have here, almost all newsstand copies. And so one of the things that I struggle with is how to sell these books. Because on eBay, I try and take multiple pictures so that whoever is bidding on them or trying to buy them on eBay knows exactly what they're getting. I take pictures of the corners, I take pictures of the back, I take pictures of the staples, I take pictures of the spines, which is super time consuming for each book, number one. And number two, they don't always sell that well. I mean, the big keys, and what do I have in here? I have, in this chunk of Batman, I have the first appearance of Jason Todd. I have the first appearance of Killer Croc. We have the first solo Catwoman story. We have a bunch of other like first appearances of Nocturna. The first time that Dick Grayson steps into the role of Batman. There's a lot of really good keys in here, but again, they're mid-grade books. So, these are books that if they were in near mint condition might be worth $10, might be, the first Killer Croc and the first Jason Todd, it's like $100 book. But in this condition, aren't going to pull that. Some of those keys will probably sell anyway in mid-grade condition on eBay. But a lot of the books that aren't keys or are sort of minor keys are going to be harder to sell on eBay. And with all of, and I've talked to you all about the eBay fees and all of those things, eBay might not be the right place to sell them and to try and get the best possible return that I can. So I've been doing some research about, like, how do I sell these low to mid-grade books? And again, they're mostly mid-grade. So I've been looking at a couple of options. One option is there's actually on Facebook, there are comic book selling groups. There's even one that's specifically for low grade books. Like if you have a book that's better than fine, you can't sell it on there. But then there's other, 3 or 4 different Facebook groups that I've seen where people actually just post their images of their books and sell them. So that's possibly one option. There are people who do live auctions on eBay or on Whatnot, which I haven't really looked into. Whatnot seems like mayhem to me. I've watched a lot of these live auctions on YouTube. I've watched them on eBay, and I think people do pretty well at them. I think you have to develop a pretty good pool of people who normally watch your auctions or watch your YouTube videos so that those people will show up when you're having the live auction. And I think it seems to me like people develop regular customers that way. So I'm not sure I'm there with my eBay following yet, although obviously I'm getting there. But, so that's a possibility. Another possibility would be just straight up Facebook Marketplace, which I find daunting. But a lot of people do sell comics on Facebook Marketplace. I feel like that's a lot to manage. I think you get a lot of sort of, is this still available? I think you spend a lot of time communicating with people who don't really have any intent of buying things from you. I think you also get, when I look at Facebook Marketplace, I see a lot of people trying to sell comics at a very high price. And, maybe they're actually successful that way, but I mean, some of the prices just seem outrageous. And I've also seen buyers who just want to pay pennies per book. So I'm not 100% sure that Facebook Marketplace is something I want to get into at this point. Maybe later when I've got more mystery boxes or I've got more things I want to move at like bulk rate, like 50 cents a book or $1 a book, maybe I'll do it that way. But these are books that, should sell at least $2, $3, $4, $5 per book, even though they're in mid-grade condition. And so I'm really like challenged to think about, and I guess I'm just nervous. I'm just anxious and nervous about doing it. But I think my next step for these books, and maybe I'll just take like 20 of these Batman books that I think are sort of in decent mid-grade, I guess is what I would say, is I might pick one of the Facebook groups and just post them on there and do what's called either called a bin sale or a claim sale, where basically a bin stands for buy it now. And yes, it took me forever to figure that out. Like, bin sale, what does that mean?
Because it's in a bin, right?
That's what I thought it was, but it was not that. But I think I can figure out maybe I'll do like 30 books or something like that. And so basically with a bin or a claim sale, you just put each comic up, in its own comment, basically using the comment section, with a request, a photograph of it with what you think the best, what the price is that you'll accept. And then people go in and they claim them. They say, they hit reply, and if they hit reply first, they get it. And then I guess you just do payments through PayPal Goods and Services. And then, I'll probably use pretty much the same flat shipping that I do with eBay, which is $9 U.S. Postal Service ground advantage for 1 to 6 books. 7 to 12 books be $12, and then actual calculated postage after that. But I think that's what I'm going to do. If anybody else is out there who has come up with a really great strategy for selling their mid-grade to low-grade comics, I would love to hear it, because this is an area that I really feel like I'm struggling with. And I think it's going to be a big chunk of some of the books I'm about to get into in the storage unit. I saw the other day that there's a book of, oh, this is Bandit saying hello. There's a whole box of old Green Lantern, Green Arrow that I know are going to be in similar situation. A bunch of old Flash comics, I have a whole box of old adventure comics that were like Legion of Superheroes, Supergirl stuff from honestly the late 60s, early 70s. So I really want to come up with a good way to do this if it's not going to be eBay. And again, I'll put some of the higher, keys, the more important keys, I'll put those up on eBay. But I got to really figure out how to do this. So that's what I'm going to do. And so that's my strategy for the mid-grade comic books, which is that I don't have a strategy, and I'll tell you what works later on down the road.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Thank you guys really so much for subscribing. I'm just amazed that this is taking off in the way that it is, and I hope that you all enjoyed seeing those amazing Batman covers, even though they are in mid-grade condition. But I love those old covers. They always manage to, those are great covers by Jim Aparo, Dick Giordano, Gene Colan, Neil Adams, all these great cover artists from back in the day. And and maybe it's a little bit old school of me, but what I really loved about a lot of those old covers was that they really captured and hinted at what was going to be in the story. They always hinted at what was, who was going to be the villain, who was going to, like, what was the big conflict going to be, what was the big action going to be. It wasn't just, a static image of the main character. And, as I've sort of, hinted at, I've kind of stopped buying comic books. But if I'm being honest, every now and then when I'm traveling or visiting friends or whatever, I will often pop into a local comic book shop.
Hey, I can take this hat off anytime I want. I just don't want to. Get away!
And I can see that they're such great artists, right? There are great artists doing these covers. And you can see the talent, you can see all of the, the vision, whatever the artistic skill, whatever you want to say. But I found the covers pretty not engaging. I found them pretty much, and I stopped to think, this is one of the reasons why, it made me reflect on my recent experiences in comic shops, is comic covers are just really not, they're beautiful, but not that engaging anymore to me. I mean, so this is the absolute Batman, right? So what we have here is a pretty grim looking Batman in a pretty grim looking Batman pose. Not much about the story is happening there. Here we have the classic Superman. I mean, how many times have we seen Superman just like this, but by a different artist?
Also,
right?
His face looks weird.
Well, his face does look weird. I have to say, this isn't going to be one of my favorites right here, but it's the classic portrait of Superman flying at you, right? How many times have you seen the Wolverine cover where it's just Wolvie with his claws out? How many times have you seen the Spider-Man cover where it's literally Spidey with his feet splayed out, the web, flying at you, the thwip kind of a thing. Here we have the, speaking of which, here we have the, the new, this is, I think, the regular edition of the Superman Spider-Man comic. It's just, again, it's a very attractive cover, but it doesn't really tell me too much about the story. It's just portraits of the main characters. If it's a team book, if it's a, X-Men or Justice League or Avengers book, or I picked up a copy of Imperial Guardians #1. It's a portrait of the team. It's fun. Again, beautiful artwork, great representations of Gamora and Captain Marvel, and I guess that's Ghost Rider in space.
Like Cosmic Ghost Rider or something.
Cosmic Ghost Rider. I can't wait to read this to find out what the heck is going on. And I look at these things and I think to myself, why can't comic book covers be like really engaging anymore? Or do those kinds of fun, wacky covers where, you have the villains on there engaging, you have like the little, what do you call it? Like text boxes that have some like funny things in them, or you have a little bit of dialogue on the cover, or some indication of what is the story inside. I do like that modern covers have the names of the creators on them, because that often helps me to make choices. But overall, I don't find them that interesting. And the other thing is, and I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this, but the whole freaking variant thing. Oh my God. Are you freaking kidding me?
I like them.
I know you do. Okay, so, and I know a lot of you out there do. And I remember when cool new covers were started, when they started doing the holographic covers, or the yeah, that one, the funny ones that would like kind of change what the image was when you tip the book, the foil covers, the die cut covers. Those were fun. They were usually for a special event or something. But this thing, I mean, how many variants did they have for this book?
Oh, at least 5 or 6, it felt like.
No, it's way more than that.
Was it?
Oh, yeah.
There was like the one with Jimmy Olsen, there was 2 with Spider and Soups, there was the Superboy Prime one, and then there was...
according to this, so this is the original one, I think, by Jorge Jimenez. So we've got one by Arthur Adams, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, like 24, 25. And these are by some amazing artists.
Well, the book was super meh, but at least it gave a paycheck to a lot of good artists and writers.
Right.
I guess.
I mean, that's literally like, and that's the one thing, like, okay, so this is the thing about, this is the pro of variant covers, which is all of these amazing artists get more work. And I'm happy for that. But I feel like, it is just a way, it's just a way for the publishers to sell multiple copies of the same meh book. And I'm sorry, but it was a pretty meh book. And there's some great writers in here and some great artists in here, but they just weren't each given, it's multiple stories, and they just weren't given enough to really work with. I mean, it was a cute idea, but nah. But I mean, there's covers here by, J. Scott Campbell, Olivier Copiel, or however you pronounce his name. I apologize for that. I'm 100% sure that's not how you do it. Jim Lee, Steve Lieber, one of my absolute favorite artists of all time. So many people in here. And I can see how, and these are like people getting into this, what is it, like the ratios, 1 to 20, or there's like
1 in 20.
1 in 20, 1 in 200, 1 in, like all of these variants, which put so much pressure on the comic shops to order a massive amount of the book, because you have to order, at least this is the way it used to be, I think it still is, you have to order X amount of the standard edition of the book in order to even qualify to get one of these variant covers, right? And you can't, if you have a regular customer who wants a variant cover, you got to bust your butt to try and, if you're a comic shop, to try and get those variants, because obviously they're limited, because that's the whole point, and then it turns into this, and I think that for the Absolute Batman, I think there's a bunch of covers for that too, or there was something else, and then it turns into this immediate, price war on eBay. Like all these people get those variant covers and they immediately turn around into the resale market and just, for $200 or $300 or $500 or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't like it.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Well, that's my diatribe about variants and covers and all of that. If you agree with me, get into the comments. If you don't agree with me, you can comment too if you want to. I probably won't read them or reply, because you probably don't know what you're talking about. But I am happy to have been here today with you and with producer Marlo. We have some really big things in mind for our channel, including some new shorts. Marlo's going to keep doing his producer's picks because those are awesome. I'm going to keep reading some of these funny letter columns from old comic books. I have a new spotlight for a local comic book shop I found in Louisville, Texas. And we just are, generally speaking, cranking things out. One thing I want to let you know is that we are going to be moving to a every other week or twice a month format with our longer videos, just so that we can give you the quality that you have come to expect. So, until the next time, take care.